Hello and welcome to another Ancient Warfare Answers. My name is Jos Boorthuis. I'm the editor of Ancient Warfare magazine, and with me is Murray Dam. He's the assistant editor. And today we're answering another, I think it's a Patron question, isn't it, Murray?
I think so.
Yeah. So
Uh,
if you're a patron, you can ask us questions. Actually, if
from
you're anybody, you can ask us questions, and we'll try to answer them. But if you're
this
a
one's
patron, we just, you know,
this one's from David. David at Patreon.
we might try to get to your question a bit faster than otherwise. And you should, because it allows us to keep talking about this, and you can also get a subscription to the magazine out of it. So go to patreon.com/ancient warfare podcast, and you'll find all the options there. But right now we're going to talk about preparation for battle and how long did it take, Murray?
So we've got the question that how long would it take an army to respond from camp if an enemy appeared? And the bizarre thing is that we have battles where there are two sides encamped for a large number of days opposite one another, where one or both come out of their camp, form up for battle, and then a battle doesn't happen. Uh, and, in some cases, the Battle of Marathon, it's a week. A couple of other battles during the Peloponnesian War, it's 5 days, and then there's a battle after the 5 days. Why? And sometimes there are religious reasons for observances and things like that. Other times, perhaps there's the ground is being prepared, or in one of the battles in the Peloponnesian War, there's a spot for an ambush is spotted, and so in 5 days they've put the men in there in the night, and so they offer battle, and that ambush can be sprung at the right moment. So those things happen. There are times, of course, where an army refuses to come out of camp, so there is no battle, or where you have a sort of an army being pursued back to the camp, and the pursuing army, gets almost inside the camp, but it's not organised. And one of the things you have is, of course, that if you're going to offer battle from a camp and you're not ready, prepared, or in the right order, you're going to end up with some kind of disunity, and you're not going to enter that battle prepared properly. So we do get those sorts of pictures too. We do have sort of raids on camps where people haven't been able to arm themselves or armor, and they're going into battle without proper preparation. But generally, that doesn't lead to success, shall we say? But at the same time, I'm thinking about the Battle of Adrianople in 378. Valens leaves in the morning, marches, we think, between 13 and 20 kilometres away from Adrianople to get to the wagon lager of the Goths. And when he gets there, even with all that time, he's still not prepared. The army arrives sort of piecemeal. There's no cavalry on the left wing. They arrive. It looks like the right wing engages before the infantry's ready. So there's all that sort of thing happening as well, where a battlefield can be a chaotic place, and even the best laid plans seem to go awry on a battlefield. So not coming out of camp instantly into the battle line and, therefore here we are, we're ready, seems to be a much more rare thing when it suddenly leads to battle. We have several battle accounts, and sometimes it's very hard to tell because we're not told when the battle starts. We tend to be told a battle ending because night falls. And when that happens, you're like, well, they can't possibly have fought from early in the morning until nightfall, in midsummer. That's a ridiculously long amount of time for that to happen. So there must have been waiting, manoeuvring, coming out into line early and standing there waiting for the other side to, again, get into position and then agreeing to start a battle. There seem to be few battles that are sort of begun impetuously, that they're begun sort of by pre-arrangement, and we'll turn up tomorrow, we'll have, a battle. Okay, we'll be there. And that's kind of the most ridiculous idea. We also get, occasional battles where there's parley before the battle, and that doesn't end in an agreement. And so having had that discussion, they go back to their lines and then fight a battle. So I think in the main, these armies are not preparing for battle in a rush. They're not doing it unprepared. They're taking their time to form up, go out, be ready, and then whether a battle happens or not is a kind of a hit or miss thing. We do have an account of the Huns, the Hunnic battle line. I think it's from Maurice. So again, quite a late source. But he says that the Huns used to get into their battle lines before dawn, so that when dawn broke, they would be in their battle line. And Maurice has the most interesting comment that because they are a tribal confederation made up of lots of irregular units of mostly cavalry, but they extend in a single line, it makes the battle line of the Huns look enormous because it's a single battle line. And the criticism that Maurice brings is that, not like us, we have 3 battle lines. Again, by the 7th century Byzantine armies, you're going back to this idea of 3 battle lines, which of course is from early Roman armies when you had the Principes Hastati and the Triarii. So those sorts of things take time to get into position and to know where you are. We've got battles where we try and estimate where every unit is, and again, one of the most remarkable things about that is Alexander's battles, when we start to explore not only Arrian but the other accounts as well in Diodorus and Plutarch, and also in Curtius Rufus. We get intricate detail on where not only the army but where every division of units within that army stood. That takes time to put into place. At the Battle of Issus, for instance, we have the idea that somehow Darius gets behind Alexander. Alexander turns around and marches back towards Darius's army. And on the march, he must have put his battle line into order so that as they come onto the narrow part of the plain south of Issus, they're in double depth. And as they advance northwards across the plain, he then extends the battle line and going into single depth. So by the time he gets to the Issus River, he's in battle formation. Meanwhile, Darius has been waiting for him in a prepared position on the northern bank of the river. So in that case, you've got Alexander, on the march, not even camping, just getting into battle order. At the Battle of Gaugamela, you've got Alexander, depending on the source, having a sleepless night, trying to come up with how his army of 40,000 men is going to deal with the fact that, according to Arrian, he's facing 1 million men in the morning. And what he does is he basically makes his army an entirely like swept-back wings, a giant U shape, and at the top of the U is the phalanx that's going to be facing the Persians, and then the cavalry on the wings to stop them from being surrounded. So again, all of that would need to be communicated to each commander. They would need to know where their troops are going in line. If you've ever tried to marshal any group of people, if any of you have experience with school-aged children, marshalling 1 or 2 of them can be a nightmare, let alone 40,000 of them. And so that idea of getting them all into line, getting them into position, getting them where they need to be in relation to one another, let alone giving orders on a battlefield, that's all going to take time to communicate, especially if your battle plan for the following morning is a new one. We're not going to make you stand where you stood before. We're going to do this. We're going to go over here. And when that happens, like at the Battle of Plataea, where there's this confusion over where should who stand on which wing, and there's a decision in the night to swap, it leads to complete chaos. And still there's a battle in the morning. So it's I would say that it would take some time for a coordinated response from an army to come out of camp to fight a battle. You can skirmish with small amounts of troops, but that's not going to be a decisive battle. And so it's sort of a concerted decision on both sides to offer and give battle, whether you come out from camp. Because if you besiege someone in camp, it's no longer a battle, it's a siege. We have several examples of that happening too. But the idea that you come out of camp and give battle is going to take several hours for you to get your army in order to face the opposition.
Right. Thank you.